Hi everyone. So you will be seeing a clip in a moment. We're going to discuss the UK riots and some wider messages. I'd also like to just cover the Middle East very quickly in this one. Two very sensitive topics that no matter how I deliver maybe the way I want to deliver something, it could be misconstrued or misunderstood, misinterpreted. So I would like for you to watch this with an open understanding. So if you're coming from a far right perspective and you have felt you've always been far right no matter what anyone says, or far left or whatever it is, and you're probably not a subscriber to the channel if that's the case. Maybe this is not for you, but maybe you want to tune in and challenge yourself. I don't have strong opinions about anything, but I do have strong opinions about injustice. And I have strong opinions about hatred and violence as being the retaliation. But underneath it, I understand the deep roots. What really made me want to do this was the uproar that I've seen also not only from social media, but mainstream media news that have people on there that are, because of an ex-title, are well regarded, well respected, and they so cleverly sew in messages that they want into something that is irrelevant to an actual crime. Okay, now some of you won't understand what I'm saying. There's relevance in it in some certain way, but we're looking at a crime that's separate to whatever can tie in, and everything can be connected in some kind of way, right? Me and you are connected. How are we connected? We're both human on a basic level. If you're female watching this, we're both females. So those kind of things, but is it connected to what the actual incident is or this current space in time? No, because as you're watching this, I am not recording this. This is not a live. Or as you're watching this, you might be somewhere else and I'm somewhere else. What I'm trying to say is we're dealing with two things here. That's a crime. And I'm going to allow you to watch the clip. It really heated me up and I only got to a minute and a half, and then in order to put it into this video, I had to watch the whole 10 minutes, okay? Watch it, see what we're talking about. We're talking about an incident that happened in the UK. Now, 2 days before this incident, there was already a protest that happened in the UK from the far right in terms of immigration, okay? Or migrants, immigration and migrants. Then a couple of days later, this occurred. And since this occurred, it's gone full out. And I think, you know, this is where I'm going to have to be careful because there's some things that I want to discuss. I don't know if I'm going to be able to discuss them on the open panel or if it's going to need to be Patreon. And possibly I risk it on members, the higher tier. There's two tiers, by the way. There's the members tier, SWZ, Soul with Zain, $2.99 per month, cancel anytime. You get your badges, you get your emojis, sometimes, occasionally, an early release. There's the Super Soul, SWZ, and then in Patreon, there's exactly the same. The difference is Patreon can be unfiltered. but you need to just check what is for you, okay? I'll go into in a moment how you can support the channel. Let's just get okay. So I don't have the date here. Hang on a sec. Let's see if I can get the date. He's in Wikipedia now. 29th of July, okay? So on the 29th of July, a mass stabbing targeting children. This is Wikipedia, so it's interesting to see how Wikipedia words stuff. In Southport, Merseyside, UK, 3 children were killed and 10 other people, 8 of whom are children, were injured, some of them severely. Axel Rudakubana, 17-year-old British citizen born in Cardiff to parents from Rwanda, was arrested at the scene and has been charged with 3 counts of murder. Said the wrong flipping word. This is why. 10 counts of attempted and possession of a blade. Says bladed article. Horrific, really, horrific. But that suddenly turns into this outroar, okay? Social media had released that they believe it's an immigrant sent by Russia on a boat from Rwanda. They had the country name. They had said that the name is Ali al-Shakti or Ali Shahti or something like that. I've got no idea. I knew that there was something wrong if this was going to be correct, because the immigration and the boat thing just felt a bit weird. But also the nationality, and not the nationality, the origin of ethnic origin, and the name don't tie in. I know Rwanda is predominantly, if not 90%, Christians. I don't think they have any Muslims, and if there is, it's very low percentage. And the name Ali, whatever the last name was, that is more of a Muslim name, and Muslims are divided into 2 types of Muslims. Well, that's something else for another day. So I knew something was off. It's not it's not like a Rwandan name, so something was off. Anyway, eventually it comes out, the kid, I think his parents have been in the UK for 10 years. He's been in, and the judge helped ease the calm that was happening. The evening of when he was arrested at the scene, by the way. He'd taken an Uber, he went there, he did this horrific crime, and then he was arrested at the scene, and I think the next day he appeared at Crown Courts, Liverpool. We don't show the people in the courts. It's always drawings that we get to see. Not like the US, so it's I mean, I can understand from a certain perspective of protection, but you don't get a feel of stuff. You don't get a feel of the body language, etc. I'm just checking it's recording. And that evening, and I mentioned the nationality and name, something was off to actually a subscriber who commented on my post of community where I said Donald Trump's video is getting uploaded. The community posts that are temporary, I tend to just delete them. There is still a poll there, and there's members posts as well, but you know, it depends where you sit for you to be able to see them. So the mosque was targeted, you know, and then it was all racism, But there wasn't racism towards dark coloured skin, and I mean black by that. But it was targeting Islam and Muslims, and even until now, all right. And then you go on the news, and these are the clips that you see. So now I'm going to enter the clip for you to watch, and I'll meet you back here after you've seen it.
We have seen a 17-year-old youth who has now been remanded in a youth detention centre, will appear at Liverpool Court, Crown Court later on today. He has been charged with 3 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, possession of a bladed weapon as well. We have, I mean, thankfully, some good news today. 2 of the children who were injured in that attack in the Southport stabbing on Monday have now been discharged from hospital with their injuries. So that is wonderful news, given that obviously we were so worried that other children were fighting for their lives and the death toll could possibly rise. So at least some bit of good news there. But we have seen riots, not just in Southport on Tuesday night, but also last night, Hartlepool, Manchester, London, 100 arrests in London, other arrests in other cities, bricks, bottles being thrown at the police, some quite nasty, unpleasant scenes. I mean, burning cars and buses and goodness knows, I mean, and police vans and whatever. What do you make of this? And why do people go out on the streets? And how does a protest turn into a riot? You've been on the ground.
I'll be brief, but please grant me the time to tell the uncomfortable truth that I, quite frankly, have been sickened by listening to hand-wringing liberal media presenters throughout the day, encouraging people to phone and go, what's the cause of this? What's the cause of this? When anybody who is a keen follower and observer of social media and British society will be able to tell you. There is a creeping concern amongst a sizable minority of Britons who are worried about the increasing Islamification of Britain and also harbour huge concerns about uncontrolled migration. Call it racist if you will. Call it Islamophobic if you choose to. Call all of those people far right if you're lazy and cannot come up with a better description. These are people who are concerned. People, for example, some of whom are my age, who were born in the late 50s, early 60s, into a street that was as white as snow, and they have seen the nation in the last 50 years or so become very different. And that's not to say they are against it all, but they are against the increased Islamification.
But then that's a different thing, isn't it? Then people get very focused on colour of skin. I don't think, I mean, given we have an incredible rate, like mixed rate marriage in this country and things like, I don't think people are concerned about the colour of people's skin in this country. And there are some people who are racist, they do have an issue. There are racists in all ethnicities, by the way. But I think the issue is it's a culture issue, isn't it? And it's a two-tier issue. That's what it comes.
Yes, and the colour of skin may come into it when you look at
that just highlights difference.
Yes, that don't look like you, don't dress like you, don't have the same faith or no faith like you, possibly, and have leaders who can be found very quickly and easily on social media who espouse about turning Britain into an Islamic caliphate.
Here's the thing.
That can be found quite easily.
What's all of that got to do with children being stabbed at a dance studio at a holiday camp in Southport on Monday by a man who we know was born in this country, now, to immigrant parents from Rwanda. Now, we don't know what religion this 17-year-old is now. Sub judice, we can't discuss any, but we actually don't know what religion is, whether that would be relevant or not. We were told this was not a terrorist-linked attack by the police very early on, but also it is a matter of fact that in Rwanda, 95% of the population of Rwanda are of Christian faith.
I'll tell you exactly what it's about. Unfortunately, a bot account was able to put out utterly incorrect nonsense. When you have the aforementioned group of people that I was talking about, those who are concerned about the increasing Islamification of Britain, and they latch onto that, they are probably going to digest it wholesale, unfortunately.
And the idea is that there were even, there's an asylum seeker coming on a boat last year, said Ali Akbar, far. I mean, lies. The lies was
Lies.
But okay, there are going to be wrong actors on social media. There's some talk that Russian operatives were behind this, and they try and stir things up. We know that does happen on a daily basis. But did the police sort of fail to stop that soon enough? Did the authorities fail to stop that?
We have a breed of senior police officers who, particularly since the Nicola Bulley mishandling of information, are refusing to answer questions at press conferences, and they are sticking to written statements which they read out and then they disappear. Now, Serena Kennedy, Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, said the other day in her statement that the 17-year-old, I'll mention nothing else, originally from Cardiff. Let me just focus on those three words. To me, and perhaps to others, originally from Cardiff, you might think of a flame-haired rugby player, perhaps, or maybe not. When that is then coupled with what a national newspaper published soon afterwards that said he was of immigrant parents, that just flames the fire.
There's a feeling that people aren't getting the truth. I mean, I lived in Cardiff. I lived in Cardiff for a year, and I would have known, for instance, that there was a huge, Somali heritage population there. So actually, I wouldn't have jumped to that conclusion, but people did. But we know that the message that was in it, but what that message was, we know if we let that bit of information come out, then there will be trouble, there'll be reaction, and there was on the streets. Here's the thing: when you've got people who have genuine concerns about the safety of their children. And we know that there has been a rise in violence. You can see videos from again and again where often it is involving migrants, some recent arrival of migrants. I mean, the stats are very clear when you look at violent assaults and sexual assaults across Europe, where you've had rivals from certain parts of the world, that you are seeing cultural differences, which are, well, we couldn't call it that in inverted commas, but actually attitudes to women, attitudes to violence, gang crime has erupted. I mean, off the scale in Sweden, Germany, Austria, France, Italy. It's not a coincidence, okay? And it's been happening here. Now, here's the thing. How do people having concern about the safety of their children, concerned about issues like mass uncontrolled immigration, concerned about illegal migrants,
I'm just going to stop it there for a moment. So sometimes in my content, I don't give the direct behind the message I'm trying to get across. I allow the space for that. And that's why sometimes I challenge you to watch the content I deliver. And it's open energy. What is wrong with what we're hearing? We're hearing a title of I harbour concerns about Islamification of Britain. The takeover of Britain by Islam. Such a strong word used. Yet then it's said, this is his own words, it said, this all came from social media, whatever word he used to say about social media online, that erupted the rumours. So he puts a statement out, full force with fear, full force giving meaning on. He's probably against certain religions. He brings it up as conspiracy theories. Yet he, one day later after this, what happened, not a full 24 hours, is on the news saying about Islamification. And you can tell the reporter tries to reel him in. And going back to what I said, when they're invited on these mainstream news, they make sure that they're going to kind of say something that the news is happy to continue to cover, not too out of boundaries. So they knew he was going to come in. If you look at the comments, it's the mass people that are not awake and have also slated this reporter saying, you need to shut up and listen to him. But she tries to reel him back in, and then obviously they go off in different stuff. And there's an agreement for him to say whatever he wants to say. But look at even mass media, mainstream media, and the masses that cannot awake to this. And I guarantee you, some people that fall on my video will not understand my messages of multiple messages in my content, in my video, in this video itself. But I'm trying to bring to light the manipulation, which also people are blinded by. I mean, there was a horrendous amount of messages saying, Peter for MP, Peter this, I hope you will rule and stuff. And it's just an off their heads with certain people, etc., etc. And at the end of this video, whole recording, you'll see at the end the headlines of some things that I've mentioned. Wait for the pictures. Let's continue.
The boats coming over from Calais. How does that then get solved by people throwing bottles and bricks outside a mosque or at police in London?
And it doesn't get solved through such thuggery that I would never condone. But when people harbouring those concerns, and I, to a certain extent, harbour some concerns about the increasing Islamification of Britain, I've said it, when people harbour those concerns, but I won't throw bricks, then see politicians, senior police officers, on about social cohesion. It's broken this week, we know that, about the joys of multiculturalism, and that is not their experience. That is not what they see. They may have moved out of an inner city area to a different place because they felt their demographic of the population was getting squeezed, none of which the thoughts and concerns they harbour are particularly Islamophobic or racist, but they're concerned. The street they lived in as a kid does not reflect.
He has valid points here, and I think I bring it up in my recording as well. But again, I'm trying to show you how he's trying to get across a message, yet he's pretending he's not directing that message. Let's continue.
In any way, shape or form,
absolutely.
What it was 50, 60 years ago.
No, I mean, I live in an area,
concerned.
and generally you go 2 or 3 streets and you won't hear anybody who speaks English as a first language. I mean, literally no one on the street is speaking English.
But the politicians would have us believe that we live in this.
But you're not even allowed to say that. I mean, even saying that is apparently an awful thing to say. Just kind of, in terms of the just short on time. In terms of the policing of these various different, there's a big contrast with what happened in Leeds a few weeks ago, and talks about Muslims and inflamed tensions and how we need to address these needs. Didn't have any of that language when it came to dealing with what people called the thugs in Southport. And indeed the policing, very heavy-handed policing outside Downing Street last night.
And here we go. More fuel to the fire of the people that are concerned and might throw bricks. Go to Hare Hills. What do you see? Scores of police officers running away from the bricks that are being thrown. Fast forward to London last night. Full public order kit, helmets, shields, a lot, battering people to the ground.
Yeah.
And who were throwing the bricks in Hare Hills? Brown-faced people. Who were getting battered to the ground last night? White-faced people.
And
These
that
are
is
facts.
the stark reality. But even saying it, well, you're far right, you're racist, you're bigoted, but we need to talk about it. If you don't talk about things, you can't get to the bottom of things.
Of course we do. And I'm only 18 months away from getting my old age pension. So if anybody wants to cancel my career that I've never had, I really don't give a damn.
And it's valid. This goes back to a point I make in my reading. When you look at certain religions or certain groups, there can be many races and nationalities that fall under a religion or a group. And if there's one group that's overtaking in terms of maybe the way they live and not willing to adapt, or language barrier, not willing to learn, or crime or terrorism, those other nationalities that belong to that religion are overseen as the same. And it's spoiled not only what people don't understand of a religion, but also of that nationality. People are combined, and that is unfair. So, for example, Asian Muslims, Arab Muslims, etc. Muslims are different. But again, I just want to go back to some points I'm trying to point out here. There is validity in some things. But was this responsible less than 24 hours later with indirect messaging that I believe created more hate, yet throwing it on online sleuths. This was absolutely irresponsible. And this is part of programming. And the people, you try to put a comment in that comment section to say it's a bit irresponsible at this moment in time, you will be slated. So let's continue with our reading, everyone. What are your views on that? What is wrong with that? Firstly, to me, the reporter, and by the way, I looked at the comments to see what people were saying. This is the ex-Met guy that I had issues with on the Jay Slater case. All right. Firstly, I don't think he should be invited up on a mainstream news panel. And the way the mainstream news panel is they will say, will you come forward to speak? And they, most of the time, 99.9% will say, are you going to say like someone's just lost their mind, they're unstable? To make sure that your opinion is kind of like not outrageous, okay, where it's going to cause, it's going to be, you know, so for example, if someone goes in and there's been a horrific crime and the person they want to invite says, actually, the parents did it, the mainstream news media might not want to take them up on that. So they might decline them and look for someone else that's going to say something that's a bit more mellow or in with what they want to broadcast. Okay, so definitely they knew he was going to say something around this. But the reporter tried to hone him in. Like, what has this got to do with this right now? We're reporting on this. The interlinks is the UK, a lot of UK are fed up. And there's a lot of root causes. And there's been a lot of repression over the years. I mean, even for the economy is one of the big things here. Now, there's a difference between the problem with immigration, migrants, asylum seekers, and the difference between then bringing in Islamophobia, Islamification, and saying Islamification is trying to rule the country and take us over. What happens with that is, especially people that are around, I don't mean this in a rude way, but people that are of older generations, 80s and 90s, they've grown up in a certain way. And so anything beyond that, if they've not grown up with it, there's a fear and there's a closed off mind. And all I could see in the comments, and it wasn't only those, it is, again, a bit of the blind leading the blind and a misguided Pandora's box. This guy was totally irresponsible to put that message out. If you want to put your own message out there, you need to use a separate timing, not tie it in. And it's irresponsible because people like him and that channel that allowed him to be on there get these people to believe that Islam or Islamification or whatever's happening is trying to rule out the whites and take over the country. And maybe there needs to be better restrictions on certain things. And I definitely think so in terms of immigration, migration, citizenship and that sort of stuff, right? And also, like, you could be a Brit that goes to, let's say, what can we say, like the job seekers, and what you get paid on job seekers, absolutely, I'm getting too sensitive here, not sensitive as in feeling, but I need to be careful on what I'm saying. You might go to claim something, okay, the amount that, you know, the government give on certain things is horrendous, but then there's other people that just take as much as they can. And there'll be other people that are on the same amount that have maybe just landed in the country somehow eligible for the benefit. And they can't hardly speak English. But there is a pain there of the world, of these countries that there's some, you know, leaders that have all this power that want to take over the country's land. So where do these people go? Now, the UK need to look at what they're doing. There is also another issue here. The other issue is that there's this too much status fitting in woke minorities that sit under the woke culture. Now, if you saw when they was going to discuss the skin color, you know, they very lightly, Peter was like, it could be, but he wanted to divert it back to Islamification. Because there is a larger percentage in some, especially down south in London, of black race. And that would just be too much, right? They would have too much lashback towards them about it than if they mention Islamophobia or Islamification. The words they've used are very heavy. Islamification, not the high percentage of Muslims in the country. Islamification and taking over and Islamophobia. Look at the words of programming. Look at the words of how that 10 minutes was done. A lot of like, yeah, we'll touch base on what's relevant, but then I'll push in this sentence. And you get programmed and you believe in it. And so apart from social media that put out their own, try to find the answers to stuff, you then have also mainstream media that want to put out their own messaging. And this is why I felt really strongly to call on doing this video. Do not get caught up in it. If you've had a neighbor that is, there's also another point to this. Just like there's Christians that are, some are Catholic, Protestant, and you can they have certain maybe cultures or certain practices. Often they might come from different parts. So for example, how can I say this? You might find more Catholics in a certain part in Scotland as opposed to a certain part in England, okay? And you might find, for example, you know, the royal family are towards one side as well. So there's that kind of thing, yet you don't necessarily, you don't split it. If something happened around Christians, you'd say all Christians. But what I'm trying to get to is that when you want to look at statistics of things when it comes to a religion or a sector, you need to also look at, if there is a problem, is it from a certain nationality of that sector that is not adapting and very closed off? And there's an answer there, okay? So sometimes you're grouping in many groups under one umbrella, and in fact it's one STEAM group that seems to maybe be the issue. There's also the issue of immigration that comes in, and the government place them in certain towns and cities, and so those people that have lived there all their lives, born and bred, start to feel their town and city has been taken over by, you know, a certain nationality. And so what this does is triggers, actually, yeah, like what happened 15 years ago, I'd walk down the street, I'd randomly see maybe an exchange student, but now the whole street of X and the other street Y is more or less that culture or that nationality or that whatever. And so people start to get riled up, they start to believe that there's a taking over, and it's all little intricacies. And one thing that people feel all of a sudden, and which would not be fair if stated, and I'll go into cards about the new Prime Minister in this read or the next read if I can, it might be a bit sensitive, is that he's not been in the role long enough. Like, we need to give him a chance. We need to give him a chance, because this, I can see people saying, well, in the past 15 years, however long Conservative were, there was never this issue. But this issue doesn't happen from overnight. This issue happens from repression of years and deep-rooted stuff. And it's connected to, like, even the economy. We had the economy crisis, we had Brexit, we've also still got a harshness in the economy and financial situation within the country. So there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are peed off for various reasons. And then you have the immigration and the migration. And the far-right person who did these protests has fled the country and I believe gone to Canada. And so all of it is getting misconstrued, and I think it's highly unfair for it to be especially targeted to even the person that was involved in the crime is not of that religion, but it's going all down that way. Like, I would presume if a girl or a lady was wearing the headscarf in London or any of these cities at this moment in time, she'd probably either go out with a cap, try not to go out as much as she can, even if she was white Muslim, or like she wasn't darker skin, so it was hard to see, but she wears a hijab, headscarf, or it'd be very difficult for her to take it off outside. But in those circumstances, for her safety, she may need to. And that's not something that would be, from my perspective, frowned upon. I don't want to get into religion. But what I'm trying to say is that person is probably innocent. And yet she may run the risk. And I've also heard titles, things like pedo Muslims, and it's all just getting really nasty. And hotels have been broken into, bashed into. The night of Southport, at least 37 police officers injured. Imagine the dogs, the mosque set fire to, things in the road set fire to. So you're even hurting your white police officers. Some of them must be white, might have some beliefs similar to yours. And I think they need to call the army in, because you don't want your police to back down right now. It's not the time for them to say, sod this. X person had a concussion on the Southport night. And since then, it's just been moving to larger cities. And you need to be careful what comes out of this. So people think that this is going to lead to freedom. It won't. It'll lead to new things being introduced, and you might think those new things will only hold certain people accountable, whether it's, for example, a new police force that tackles this kind of rioting that gets out of control, that then has technology. Everyone then gets reprimanded in a certain way, if that technology becomes applicable. So I don't agree with violence and hatred as a retaliation, as a revenge. It doesn't vibrate us at the right energy. And also, I definitely don't believe it in a targeted place where it has nothing to do with it at the moment in time, okay? Or for the crime, but you're tying it in with the crime. So stop looking at your neighbor. Now, some people have idiot neighbors. Stop looking at your neighbor, but look at the larger picture now. Look at the larger picture. People have lost a bit of hope in a change happening, but it's not given enough time. Time has not been given here, if we want to be fair. And so I'm just going to put some I'm just going to pull some cards and see what comes up. I feel like I have covered, but I'm just going to see what cards come up. So why are they people in the UK? It's not the energy around the rioters, but why are people peed off? long-term plans around financial, injustice, a lack of balance around stuff, especially people that are seeking stability in the country for longer term. So probably citizenship, benefits like I had mentioned. I'd also say with the Three of Pentacles, I've got two birds out just outside. Jobs, okay, resources, so maybe jobs being given somewhere else. I actually felt like these two wanted to come in reverse. Eight of Swords in reverse, which tells me also, you know, they're not, you know, holding yourself a victim. And this was something else I wanted to say. Sometimes, and I don't mean this in a bad way, we forget what we have with us. We forget how grateful and what we have in comparison to other countries and our freedom of voice. And this woke culture is causing too much of that, because even the average man, whether you're female or male, I just meant as a human, you don't know how to address someone who's in this woke culture minority, because you could be called a racist, you could be called whatever other word that you can be called. But you know, there doesn't need to be about 6 different statuses for a gender, whether female, male, transgender female, transgender male, I don't know what else they have, non-binary, and then you've got sexual preferences, and it's all just like, just out of hands really. And if you dare say any word that every year there's a change in it, in terms of the way that you should address either someone from a particular race, a certain gender, a certain sex preference, whatever it is, you're then seen as a, like I said, a discrimination, because you address them in a different way. But this is like feeling helpless when you're not actually helpless, and you're using your stories and past experiences and excuses to remain shackled, and the past is gone. I've said what I wanted to say in the next part of when I pull cards. The past is shedding away, because we are shedding the past as a worldwide, and that's why I said I hope people that are beyond the UK actually join in here. People coming into the neighborhood. Ace of Cups, the lack of unity of love with one another. Can you see how we're getting reversals now? And I feel like the Temperance needs to be out, is the lack of balance, but the Justice is out, and moderation and patience for change. You know, I've got a few cards that I want to pull, so that's why I know this is going to be a longer reading. But there's a lot of suppressed emotions, and this is the problem. Like I said, there's repression here, and there is people that are just so closed off that maybe give it a chance, and it might just be okay. Immigration coming up, or immigrants. Emperor, that's a frustration against the governments, the frameworks, everything in place. That's the frustration. But then, have we given the new Prime Minister enough time? We need to ask ourselves, you know, even when you're changing a culture within an organization, it's a 5-year plan. You can have mini steps, milestones. It's a 2 to 5 year plan. Culture doesn't change. So imagine a country. And the British, there's a lot of multicultural. It's very diverse, multicultural. You can't get away from British citizens that have been there for years and years. The parents have. Maybe the grandparents arrived or were sent by their parents to study at university. They ended up studying at university, getting jobs. having their kids and their kids and their kids, but yet they might be seen. There's a line that stops somewhere. Repressed voice, not being listened to, and that risk of knowing it's a new way forward. The past is being shed. It's a new way forward. Give that government a chance. Try to ground the suppressed emotions here. So this is turned into a little bit of, what is peeing people off? What is the issue? And a lot of it is around stability. A lot of it is around the things that I've mentioned. Now, just before I forget, there's one thing that I really wanted to share. I was thinking of the dogs in this, and even police officers that have been injured. It means dogs have been injured. And I know that police dogs don't have PPE, so like the protective wear for the police dogs. So imagine if a policeman is for example, had a blunt force from an object, I don't want to say the object, or anything, or any possession. A dog is also hurt, and most likely more likely to be hurt because police officers have PPE. Now, I don't know if you're from America or another country tuning in. Do your dogs have PPE? Do they have protective wear and sort of, they are protected, whether it's a vest to protect them? Why should these dogs get hurt? I'll put a poll on my community page, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. Look at that, rushing in. This can be an energy of rushing in and out, jumping on the bandwagon, and you're not really, what can I say? You're not really in balance. I feel like this is a bit, let's go, get on with it, let's go. And let me say something, even when I want to touch base on the Middle East in a moment. Political extremism will never bring balance in any country. Political extremism will always lead to out of control. And this is not a king. We had it in the majority, but this is not a king. This is a certain lack of rushing forward, but then there's no thought, there's no maturity around it. I won't be surprised if a page comes out on my next question, even though it's irrelevant. So what are the fears? What are the fears? Half the deck falls out. And as I say that, look at this. Page of Swords. What did I say? There's a bit of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but there's a bit of a lack of maturity in what's being done. A lack of maturity of knowing the facts, knowing what you're actually rallying for doing all this for in a specific way. I believe if you ask any lower energies, if you ask anyone, okay, in terms of what are they, in the same riot, okay, what are you rioting for? Some will say Islam, some will say immigration, some will say immigration and Southport. But if I were to then ask them, but what about it? They wouldn't really be able to specify to me, but I can see the deep-rooted issue. And this is what this reading is about. And also the next part, which I'll go into a bit deeper. So wrong facts, running with them, going after the wrong people, even police, even the dogs, public. I can't imagine, like, I really cannot imagine someone, and I don't think there's much target against, from what I'm seeing, black race people, to be honest, and I hope it doesn't happen either. I have friends from a lot of different countries in the world and a lot of different backgrounds, also religions and beliefs. For me, I don't see that. I don't see, for example, that Sarah, the white Christian. I don't see, for example, that's Marvin, the black, I don't know what, or this is X person. You know, I see them all my friends, right? Or this is Iman, and she's from wherever she's from, and she's from a different religion. I see them just all the same. I just know them by their name. Like, I know who they are, but I don't put a title, a label towards them. If you're an awful person, then that's where I put a boundary. And what we can experience in general in life, we can experience a bad situation from a certain nationality, a certain thing, on and on and on, and that can kind of give you the illusion that I never want to deal with that anymore. Okay, I never want to deal with that race or anything like that. But not every single person from a populate or a demographic is the same. Okay, remember, going back to a crime of a 17-year-old, and I'm going to get into that. I might have to do it in part 2. There's something not right with him. I said it, and I still want to dive into that. I want to dive into the energies of these people as well a bit further. But it's overseeing the issue. There's a past issue here. It's repression. It's the economic situation. Okay. But this has become like a genie in a bottle. I can't imagine. Can any of you imagine right now the parents, like, if God forbid, I don't even want to say it. If X person is a parent of someone who's committed a crime, these parents must be like, what the hell? Just like, bury me, take me away right now. This has caused such an uproar, and it's from, you know, this person's son. I cannot imagine what they're going through. I also want to get into Keir Starmer by pulling cards, so it might, like I said, it might have to be part 2. I think it will calm down around the 13th. I don't know if something will come up, but I really do hope they get backup from the army or specialized forces, because those police officers need to feel they're backed up before they say, you know what, F it. I mean, going into hotels and breaking the hotels, that is just, and it'll be people also jumping on the bandwagon thinking it's okay. How could you hurt a dog? How could you hurt an innocent person? Causing more fear in the universe when we have so much fear. So I did want to pull from this deck. I'm going to pull from this deck. Spirit was telling me to actually pull from this deck from the beginning, like just get the card out. You know, people forget that, you know, police force in 2010 had 20 million as a budget, okay? 2023, they had 16 million. That's a big difference. A lot has been reduced in the police force, and it's kind of like, I'm going to get an advice card for this part, and then we will see in terms of the second part. I'll delve into some more questions. I'll check now if I've got time for quick cards on the Middle East, but I think that's another one that might need to be separate because I think I'm going to probably go into about a 10-minute on that. So can we just have, for the current energy at this moment in time, a card for the UK, please, Spirit? Any card. Any card. Crossing the rainbow ridge, resurrection, coming full circle. 2, coming into partnership, coming into unity. You know, I said the past is gone. There's a resurrection happening right now. Look how look at this dove. I wanted to say how peaceful. Look at this dove. It resembles peace. At the moment, people are so blocked off, and I'm going to go into the crown chakra and programming around that. They're so blocked off that if you were to say peace, they'll be like, nah, what about peace? And I dare say some of these riots are going on and people going in, and then someone in the pub having a drink, had a few beers, are like, should we join it? Yeah, let's join it. You know, just jumping on the bandwagon. There's that energy there as well. My heart goes out to I don't know, I've seen some pictures, it looks horrific what the police are facing and people are facing. Like, I can't imagine, like I said, like a woman that has a headscarf needs to take it off to feel safe and not get blunt force wounds. But this is exactly what I was going to touch base in part 2, is the crown chakra. Look at it, you can tell. So it confirms what I want to mention in the crown chakra. It's about your intelligent mind, but then your higher levels of perception and consciousness, and this is blocked. I mentioned it in the Jay Slater case, and I actually put a comment in the Jay Slater case towards someone, and I wanted to leave it, but then they wrote back, and I could see the narcissism that they have in their characteristics just from their statement. And I felt that my comment confirmed what I was feeling. I just removed it all. I didn't want to, I mean, the person can come back and put their message. 90% of the people are not subscribed to this channel. I mean, I would, if you're enjoying it and coming back, please do subscribe. Subscribing doesn't cost you anything. I'm always giving energy out, and it's difficult for people to understand. There's energy always being given out. I don't just read tarot cards. I don't just sit and I don't have any conspiracy deck fairies decks that, you know, a lot of people that are now, I've seen, are changing their readings to say psychic mediumship or psychic energy reading. I'm not sure if you understand, there's a difference between tarot and intuitive tarot, where you can get downloads, and there's just tarot readers, and it's not just you have to be talented, and there's channeling energy, and there's channeling of the past life, and there's psychics, and people that are just trying to get on being seen as channelers are saying psychic energy channeling, psychic reading, but they're using conspiracy decks and maybe tarot, and they might have certain downloads, or those downloads are just added for whatever entertainment purposes only. That takes energy from them, but it doesn't take as much energy because they're still putting it out. But when you're channeling energy, I mean, look, I said about the crown chakra from the beginning, and Spirit is saying. So subscribing, if you enjoy the channel, if you don't return. If you enjoy it, a like, subscribe, supports the channel. It doesn't cost anything. A comment, even a smiley, helps it get out in the algorithm. You can put any comment you want. You might feel like, you know what, today I feel like putting the dolphin emoji. I'm going to understand. It's a comment to help it get out in the algorithm. If you want to subscribe to membership on YouTube, there's $2.99, there's $8.99, there's Patreon that are the same prices for 2 tiers. You can do, it's a monthly basis, doesn't cost much for what you get. And there's also, if there's a reading that you felt you really enjoyed, you can donate via PayPal, where what you donate goes directly to me, or you can donate via super stickers and super thanks on YouTube, where the percentage goes also to the platform, which is fair, obviously, but I don't want to get into that split percentage. So there's ways to give back energy, all right, as well. And what I was getting at is the Jay Slater case, or certain cases, attracts a lot of blocked higher consciousness. And this is why my channel has not grown. Not only that, it's because of the sensitive crime cases that I have channeled and I have covered. And these cases, you can guess what I just did, check the camera. These cases are sensitive, and that's why I say, you know, I've got to be really careful because it's impeding me. But with your help on like sensitive cases here where I've said sensitive stuff, or politics, government, sensitive names of cases, it helps when there's a lot of views, a lot of engagement and whatever else. Anyway, let's go back. So what I was getting to is you need your intelligent mind, but also be open to perception. Don't be blocked in your crown chakra, okay? There's a way of supreme thinking here with your mind, your soul, and your heart in alignment. And I do want to get into the importance of your health as well in the next part. You know, all the perceived problems here might be feeling overwhelming. And you might feel there's no light at the end of the tunnel for your own individual circumstances. And I must say, I've got a few things that I feel the same about, okay? People might see people always commenting and thinking their life is hunky-dory, or people that, for example, are sat here doing readings that their life is hunky-dory. No, okay? Just like X person goes through something, someone else is going through something as well. And sometimes it's more than one thing. So, you know, look at the hidden blessings in the conflicts that's happening and the traumas. Look at what's happening. For me, my advice to some of those people is get on a plane and go visit another country, because you will come back home and say, I am blessed for my home. And you'll decide to get on with things. Sometimes this is going to agitate some people. Sometimes when you're given so much voice, so much wokenism, to get out of boundaries, society becomes confused. I mean, even kids probably don't know if they're male, female, or what the hell they're supposed to be. And that's where you get people drifting off in different directions. Wokenism, having people and being able to identify themselves, yes. But can you imagine trying every single person having an identity? We're all different in some way, shape or form. And we have to be careful with that, because you lose what society can see as norm because you become confused. And so overwhelming feelings have the potential to consume us right now, and consume feelings of anxiety, grief, fear, and a need to control life and create mountains, which then we feel we need to climb. But by taking this mind, heart, soul, higher perception, even through listening, by the way, I mentioned in that comment in Jay Slater case, you don't understand. What I'm delivering is not only a reading, I am delivering probed thoughts. When you watch these readings, I am opening energy, and you might get certain downloads now or after. When I do readings for clients, sometimes they're like, yeah, and they come back to me and they're like, you know what, not only did it relate there, I could see some form of perspective, but you won't imagine, not only is this correct, but this. And it's applying a different mindset and taking those small steps, patience, balance, unity, and being an unburdened spirit. knowing love, knowing peace, because what's happening is not going to bring us anywhere. If anything, it might just get clamped down fists, which is going to cause more repression. But how do you stop this? People forget to see the other part. How do I stop this right now? People are getting hurt. An innocent woman in the street. I was telling my mother, I was like, if I was, you know, if I had a headscarf, I would probably wear a cap, or I wouldn't wear it because I'd be frightened to get blunt force. Why should I? You know, I'm not even of any of the current fight backs that's happening. Why use pedo in that? That's disgusting. If we really want to look at pedos, and now the rating is going to go, what about the recent BBC person who's been held, who's been accused and actually said he's guilty? And you know what the mainstream media is saying? P-O-R-N, pornography, okay? This is the things that I can discuss on Patreon. Now, this is probably going to get sensitized, okay? But it's been classed as a class A from what I understand. Do you know what that includes? That includes RAPE, it includes torture, it probably includes scenes of for youngsters, all right? So you can imagine what acts can happen prior or after. And it's being classed as P-graphy. Are you serious? And yet, then you have channels that are saying pedo Muslims. I don't know where that's coming from. But if we want to look at things right now, things could have turned to say a certain race, whatever, I know what he is, I don't want to say it. Hugh, the BBC presenter, his race, pedo, right? But it's not. So let me just look at this and see what I can read from it. The Antakarna is a Sanskrit. So what I was saying is what I was downloading as my message. The Antakarana is a Sanskrit word for rainbow bridge. Coming full circle, this is a time for those who are ready to cross this rainbow bridge and send their spirit home. Surround them with love and peaceful environment to ease their transition. Moments of serendipity will leave you inspired. So this is also a message for those that have lost the 3 girls. I can't imagine, you know, it's a very difficult time. Acknowledge the process of planning to move forward, and you will finally put the rest any old issues, whether someone goes over the rainbow bridge or not. Past experiences that have up until now exhausted you. All your problems where you may be overwhelmed. They may seem like it's dark and there is no end for what you are currently facing. But look at your life and look at the traumas, and can you see a light? So I think that's very similar to what I was saying, light at the end of the tunnel, or see a light in a situation. We need to come into unity here. There's definitely the crown chakra, and I was picking up the amethyst, which is connected, and I'm going to go into this in the next part. I hope you enjoyed this. I was not supposed to cover some things with the words so that it doesn't get sensitized, and I cover it in Patreon, and that's why I feel more free on Patreon. I can also take a risk maybe in the members, the higher tier members, but yeah. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, to help me on this, I'd appreciate whatever you want. If you want to put a list of emojis, several comments, likes, let me know your comments. Look out for the poll on the police dogs. I'm actually thinking to take this forward, to be honest with you. and let me know in the comments your thoughts on this. Look out for part 2. If part 2, I'm going to try and record it. I'm going to have an appendix for you. When I say this word, it means this word. Anyway, everyone, I hope you are blessed. I hope you catch the latest reading and any readings you've not seen in the past, whether it's to do with cases, whether it's to do with your tarot signs. They're all very still valid, even energy reads on certain celebrities, etc. Take care and bye for now.